back, trainers. We are growing into round 5 of day 2 of the regionals here in Bochum. How are you doing, Alex? You excited for this one?
Always excited. We've had an incredible amount of games, a variety of decks as we continue to do so and continue to plow through and start to wheedle out some of those players who may eventually make their way into top 8. But we've picked out another exciting matchup for you guys as well. So we've got, from my side, Piotr Olienski, who will be playing a Lost Box variant up against
James Cox, who's also going to be playing a Lost Box variant, but they're very different lists. And as we know, James has been doing fantastic, coming 4th place at the World Championships in 2022.
Exactly that. And Piotr, also a player who's been on stream multiple times, has started to day 2 multiple events again. You know, he's had his up and downs, and he's been a very seasoned player, doing Poland proud as well, similar to a lot of players we've had recently. But he's also made day 2 in Liverpool. He came top 8 in Stuttgart. As you see, both players are playing a mirror match, but as Amy mentioned, there are a couple of small differences as players are kicking off right now for our final round of Swiss in day 2.
Wow, we've already had a huge hint at what James is playing. Look at that.
Yep, that massive Dragonite in that active spot will be playing a key feature. Not normally in this matchup, you know, using it as a big hitter in others, but both players are playing the Dragonite from this perspective, but there's a couple of other extra small cards that are being teched in, but James will not be too pleased about leading that Dragonite. That V Pokemon is not ideal.
No, not in this matchup, unfortunately. So not a very strong start from James's perspective, but hopefully they'll be able to bring it back. Lost Box decks always have this nice slow, calm pace at the beginning and then pick it up mid to late game. Wonder whether these guys will have a slightly different kind of pace of play due to the nature of being in a mirror. We haven't had a mirror like this on stream yet, so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that pace of play.
Yeah, it'll be really cool to see the kind of intricacies that we're about to see, both players, how they navigate this matchup. Of course, playing to the outs that they have in their hand as well, but also something we mentioned a few times when we talk about Lost Box decks, about working out what the next turns will be for them whilst they go through those comfy flower selecting options and those chorus experiment, as James switch cards into that comfy, into the active spot now. I know James has been heavily promoting on his YouTube and Twitch channel that he's put over like 500 games into Lost Box and just kind of getting a good understanding around the deck itself. But as you can see, he's very seasoned in terms of how his playstyle is. As he gets that capture energy down, I assume only for another comfy, so he can pivot back into it as well.
He really needs to get that Lost Zone engine running, because if he falls behind, he knows that Piotr's not going to be far behind him, where they're literally doing exactly the same thing at the beginning. And it will be interesting to see if the prize cards on both sides make a difference as well, with some Sableyes unfortunately being prized there, both that Piotr's running in their deck.
Yeah, from an initial perspective, I'd assume Piotr would look for a way to maybe start attacking with a Cramorant, using those single prize attackers as soon as possible as well. Thankfully, those Sableyes are pretty low down in the prizes.
Thankfully.
As Piotr opens with his Chorus's Experiment, James does also get the mana feed down, you know, so both players respecting the fact that they're not quite sure the lists that they're going to be playing against one another, and James sort of putting the mana feed down as a safe bet for the time being, should he be maybe walking into something like a Raikou in a lot of Lost Box variants here. But Piotr obviously playing the double Sableye, also playing the Zamazenta that we've seen a few times already, that coming out of Crown Zenith, and is eyeing up that Battle VIP pass there as well, as he begins to build out his board.
There we go. Alex, do you think you'd prefer to go first or second if you were playing a Lost Box mirror?
I think it's still one of those where you'd want to go first. Going second is obviously a great advantage, because you have access to your supporters, you have access to the confays, and get an aspect of an attack off with something like Cramorant nice and early. But I always prefer the idea of having a chance to set up. Just having access to an additional turn before your opponent does is always, you know, such a massive advantage. in this scenario, James maybe would have liked to have tried to put up a Pokemon which wouldn't get initially knocked out by something like the Cramorant, so something that can tank the 110 damage. But at the same time, as long as Piotr is able to get 2 flower selectings off, that Cramorant is and will be live and potentially start the prize race off.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I love about going second when you play Lost Box. I don't think it feels like something that's too detrimental to your whole game plan. You get the first knockout, you get the first say, you get the momentum going with those prize cards. So I never feel like it's that damning to the match. It kind of feels like you're okay with it. Whereas some matchups you could think, oh my goodness, I don't get that evolution. This ain't going to be one of those games because it just doesn't have the capability for it.
Yeah, and there you go. You also see the Manaphy from Piotr's side as well. So also respecting, you know, it could be a Radiant Greninja coming down and sort of using Moonlight Shuriken for 2 prizes. Lots of options there. And there's the first Comfey flower selecting from Piotr. Looks like they're just double checking. Just, I guess, some of the moves makes it a little bit easier. The count as well there. The free is now in the lost zone for Piotr. I believe that was the Sky Seal Stone that he also put into his hand from that flower selecting there.
Yeah, it looked like it. The Lost Zone race is on. Here we go. Let's see who can get up to those crucial numbers faster. So it's a fun little extra game within a game with this one.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a bit of a sort of solitaire hand playing for a little bit as they're obviously now pivoting between the Comfeys and the flower selecting. Now Piotr will be looking for that opportunity to find that Cramorant and another switching out that's available within his list. You know, these lists play lots of different ways of kind of just switch and pivot between Pokemon, which typically makes it easy. And there's the slam down air balloon. There's the Cramorant.
There's the Cram.
He will be kick-starting off our final round of Day 2 Swiss with the KO there on that first Comfey.
Yep, seeing that nice Cramorant come down is perfect. Going second, like I said, taking that domineering stance by taking that first prize card before James can do anything about it. And now obviously James will be looking to do their best to retaliate, but with the option of kind of getting some damage on the board early with Greninja being taken away by Manaphy. Both players clearly really know what they're doing with this deck, and they're taking full advantage of it and not letting their opponent see any chips in their armor.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just kind of having a little look at some of the few cards just whilst James is playing out his turn here with the quick ball. There's a couple of differences that I pick out, and one is a card that is prized on Piotr's side as well, is that Echoing Horn that we saw in quite a few sort of early variants of Lost Box decks, being able to sort of bring up another very low HP Pokemon, particularly when Palkia was such a prevalent deck as well with the 60 HP Sobbles. Those Sableyes were able to just keep dropping damage counters on them. But this is a utility, so able to maybe, and I think James has seen it right on the wall already, quick early scoop. Something we've mentioned before, but Piotr does take game 1, I believe. We'll get full confirmation of that as well, but I believe James is scooping up because he does have the Dragonite on the bench and has lost the first early prize. Does put Piotr in a more commanding position. So James will have to try and figure out a way back into the game with an early scoop. Does give a chance for Lost Box decks to be able to maybe play out a game 2 and then aim for that game 3 as well.
Yeah, we know that Lost Zone box decks on their own can take such a long time to conclude a game. What happens when 2 go against one another? Oh my goodness. So I think it's one of those really intelligent decisions to cut your losses. And when you know that you can do better if you just start again, we have 3 games to get through potentially, and giving yourself the advantage by taking 1 step back to take 2 steps forward can help tremendously. Yeah,
definitely. And James has identified that early on. I think just as it passed over to his turn, I think he might have just had a quick look at what his flower selecting may be giving him. And if it's not enough, he was like, okay, I've played enough games of Lost Box to know when I can sort of give up the goose for game 1, and we'll go into a game 2. We'll try and take that one down nice and early. If I can start putting a lot of pressure onto Piotr if possible, and then game 3 we can have another back and forth battle and see who could potentially make it into our top 8 as well.
Yeah, so I think both of them starting out with a really domineering board. Both of them had really strong starts. It kind of did mean that if you're on the back foot at all in that circumstances, it does lend itself to just scooping and moving on.
Yeah, so just nice and early. We do see the prizes get placed out. That Echoing Horn seems to like a spot in those prizes. You talked about going second or going first. James has decided it looks like, to go second this time.
Yeah, maybe they're valuing that attack on the Cramorant for going first. I think it's very likely that they'll be trying to play this entirely single prize, and that's why that Dragonite was so not part of the plan. And then maybe even hoping their opponent would start with a double prizer. That's such a huge turning point for the game.
Yeah, it's those opportunities for when you're a Lost Box. Sometimes when you do go first, if you don't hit those Battle VIP passes or a ball search out to a Pokemon, you can sometimes, doesn't happen too often, be left with just that one Pokemon. And they're generally quite small little mons as well. So if you're going second as a Lost Box variant and being able to attack with the Cramorant, that could be a way of potentially benching out your opponent. But Piotr is saying that's not happening today. We're going with a double battle VIP pass, and we're going with the full flow of Pokemon to fill up the bench, and just one available utility space now, which is ideal for Piotr. And James will be staring it down, going, how can I take this victory quickly and see if we can move into a game 3? Yeah,
but James still has a lot of opportunity to do that. Hopefully they've got a lovely starting hand too, and we'll be able to see a real tussle this time between two very similar and familiar decks to one another.
Yeah, and as you can see there, that escape rope and sort of maneuvering already from Piotr, already trying to raise up those Lost Zone numbers already at the 2, and just kind of preempting ready how to kind of deal with the next turns as well. So it's just having a look what he's going to do. That he's going to use that Oranguru as well, just to kind of see more cards, get more information, and that's vital in a game like this, and does have to leave the Comfey active.
Yeah, the Oranguru really gives a lot of information to a player, so it's a nice utility to have on the bench early in the game, so you're getting a maximum use out of it. We move on to James's turn. Immediately, we get a Colress Experiment, which is fantastic. You get to put 2 cards in Lost Zone and keep 3 for yourself in your hand. So these decisions can be really important. James going back to their hand to have a little check and see what's going to be optimum for them to take. Obviously, they haven't been able to do a deck search yet, so they're not entirely sure what their prize cards is or what they consist of, which is quite difficult for them to navigate so early.
Yeah, and as you can see, Piotr had 2 Battle VIP pass in hand. James has 2 in his prizes. Not ideal for your first turn, of course, but at the same time, we've spoken a little bit about it before. Once it goes beyond turn 1, you don't really want to see them in your deck anyway. So it's sometimes quite nice to have them loosely in the prizes, not having to worry about it too much.
Tucked away, we can deal with those later. Maybe they'll come in useful just to be able to discard later with a quick ball or something. But for now, unfortunately, not going to be of much use to James. Hopefully, he was hoping to see that a battle pass in the Colress to help them fill that bench. Oh, okay, Flower selecting. We've already got a lot of energy. Well, 2 energy and an ordinary rod in the Lost Zone from James, which is a bit scary, but does mean that it must mean that they've got some quite powerful cards in their hand, because those were choices that they made. So it's we know that James has practiced this deck absolutely inside and out. Another Flower selecting.
Yes, lots of little options, lots of micro decisions that have to be made in this matchup. And again, you know, he is playing the 3 copies of the ordinary rod, so maybe that's why it was a slightly easier decision to be made. Probably would have liked that capture energy to kind of keep maneuvering between Pokemon where possible.
Oh, there's the bench.
I can do exactly what you do, but without the Battle VIP pass.
Oh, and the Guru too. Oh my gosh, is that literally board for board? Yes,
that is mirror.
It's mirror, a literal mirror. Oh my goodness.
That's mirror.
You could literally put a mirror between them and the game state would be the same. Maybe not the Lost Zone, but everything else.
And here we go. He has kick-started off with the 4 Lost Zone cards in the Lost Zone with that Cramorant now able to attack with Lost Provision's ability, and that Spit innocently dealing 110 damage. Piotr now has to react and adapt to how this game has gone so far. Gets his 3rd into the Lost Zone, having used that flower selecting ability there of the active Comfey. So how will Piotr actually respond to this Cramorant here as well? Now knowing that there's no V suddenly on the board, that he can kind of help to maybe jump over the prize race.
Yeah, this will be a really massive test of endurance for both players. Can their deck consistently take back-to-back knockouts? Because that's what James is going to need to do to put the pressure on, and Piotr's going to hope that they can't do that, and that maybe they can find some way of taking multiple prizes in a turn, but those mana fees aren't making it easy.
Yeah, remember, both these players are on 28 points after 2 grueling days of TCG action. They're both playing, hoping to try and get the win, to get further 3 points, and hoping for a spot into top 8 as well. 31 points will be sort of quite close and quite a lot to see how the other matchups go as well, but it's really riveting to see these players really go at it to try and really secure a spot there, alongside some of the players that we know are already going to be in top 8, like Edwin Mesman, who has been undefeated this whole journey so far. But we'll move back to this game as we see more concealed cards, more action from Piotr's side as he tries to level up the playing field. And we see a Chorus Experiment hitting the ground right now.
Honestly, these players have everything to play for, and what a difficult matchup to go with as well into what is a momentous round for both of the players. It's going to be so scary near the end of this, because I just feel it going down to those last prize cards. Or will one of the two of them not be able to bring it back?
Yeah, I can see you just thinking about Piotr's decisions there with his Chorus Experiment. At the same time, he had one easy one, but an energy and a utilization of different attackers that were in that Chorus Experiment. I can see just trying to take that all in. There's so much information to take at the same time. He has to refer back to his hand, already quite a large size. That is also going to include the extra 3 cards coming in. So it's so many decisions to make here.
Refilling that bench.
Despite having so many Pokemon already in his hand, he's still going to continue just getting some of those cards out of his deck to improve his chances of drawing into something far better. So let's just see again how Piotr, this game is already kind of really riveting, as it was so interesting to see such a mirror on the board state already. But James has taken a bit of an advantage here.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to see exactly how each player is going to use the deck to their advantage, because they're so similar, and they know that they can continue to take easy knockouts on some of these weaker Pokemon. But then there's some like Greninja, which can't be KO'd by a Cramorant, which is an interesting consideration. I think why both of them decided that Manaphy was definitely needed nice and early on as we move over to James's turn.
Yeah, that spit innocently from Piotr's side, evening up the prizes. James double-checking the resources that Piotr has had to go through so far.
There's been a lot.
Yeah, exactly that. Both players seeing a lot of cards throughout their turns. And James is, again, you know, he's taken a bit of an advantage here. Is likely to kind of move ahead in prizes again. But is also just got to think about how he can stay ahead in this prize race. But he hasn't seen Piotr's Echoing Horn yet, which Piotr has actually just grabbed out of his prizes. So if James doesn't realize what could potentially happen and ends up maybe quick balling a Dragonite V or oh no, he doesn't play Raikou, or one of the other V Pokemon in his list, like the Drapion, without realizing, and the Echoing Horn comes to play. You know, that's one thing that he might not really be considering right now.
Yeah, it could be really scary to see that take place, where it feels like a really easy discard, and all of a sudden it all goes wrong as it lands on his bench. But then I don't know if there's enough. If there's enough in the Lost Zone, it could be utilized if Mirage Gate's alive.
Yep, exactly that. So let's just see how James will navigate the rest of his turn right now. He's obviously seen to have used his flower selecting in active spot. He's used concealed cards. He's helping us follow the action as well. That Oranguru also used, and that's why it's tilted to the side. A lot of players do this just so your opponent has an understanding of what's been used and he can follow and track the game at the same time. Does target that Cramorant onto his bench so he can, again, just keep retaliating between one another, and that's without the Zamazenta from Piotr's side.
Yeah.
So let's just, again, he's just going to keep himself ahead in the prize race for the time being until one of those crucial turns may happen at a later point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether some of the Pokemon, again, like Zamazenta with the slightly higher HP total, will be able to kind of make the difference in this battle, because it will be able to come on later on when they can Mirage Gate and possibly take some larger KOs, maybe stalling out a turn of getting knocked out themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of unique plays that Piotr can make. So that James can make as well with the Zigzagoon that he plays, which allows him to kind of utilize some of that Sableye attack, Lost Mine, to be able to kind of work things around in the actual matchup itself. So really interesting take by both players. Zigzagoon again just kind of helping to push over some of those 60 HP mons into the 70 HPs, like those Manaphy's, the other opposing Comfeys. So that's another way for James to also just stay ahead, because there's still two 70 HP Pokemon on Piotr's side right now.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
3, in fact.
Yeah, remembering that Zigzagoon and Sableye are able to ignore Manaphy's effect, as it's not direct damage, it's damage counters onto the bench. So they will be able to use that clever mathematics to their advantage.
Yeah, and there's Piotr again. Another Chorus's experiment. It looked like that Drapion has gone to the Lost Zone
That's
as
nice
well.
And safe.
Yeah, a nice, safe, easy pick there for Piotr. So it's now just trying to work out how he needs a way to jump over this prize race, which is the key aspect of how he could potentially take a win here. Knowing that hopefully they may know that there's about 30 minutes still left on the clock. Still plenty of time, because we had such a quick game on, because James identified very early on to scoop and to kind of go into game 2 as soon as possible. But it's not as if Piotr hasn't set up his board either. It's just the fact that James has been able to take the first knockout, going second in this game.
And again, making that really wise decision based on their matchup made all the difference, and hopefully it will allow them to keep pace with Piotr's decisions. But Piotr does have chunkier Pokemon in their deck, so maybe they'll be able to pull this out of the bag later. At the moment, I appreciate that they're not revealing those Pokemon.
Yep.
It's nice again, because as I said earlier, like Lost Box is still the master of taking things slow, and I think that's still prevalent even in this mirror.
Yeah, and we do see Piotr now hitting the 10 number in the Lost Zone. So already had access to the Mirage Gate where needed, because it's only a requirement of 7. But now does activate that Sableye to begin sprinkling that 12 damage counters across your opponent's side of the board. And there comes the Psychic Energy and the Water Energy going on to the Greninja for the moment as well, because Mirage Gate has to grab 2 different types out of the deck that can go into your Pokemon any way you like. But, there could be an option, Piotr, maybe having to force James to get the Ordinary Rod, already seen one in the Lost Zone. If he maybe takes out the Manaphy as an example. There's still a number of routes that he could take to really close out this game. But at the same time, he does have to jump over. I'm going to reiterate that at all costs.
Yeah,
because it's
there are so many hoops.
It's so important for Piotr to find a way to go ahead in the prize race.
Yeah, and I think that's really valuable here, is that Piotr is threatening multiple Pokemon here with the Sableye by, doing the lovely use of the damage counters to take out Manaphy, and then place some damage counters on a Comfey for later as well. Probably hoping that James has used a lot of their scoop up nets by now and may not be able to restore that.
Yeah, so it's not just about managing your own resources at this point. It's also kind of having an idea of your opponents as well. I would have liked to have seen maybe a damage counter on that other Comfey, just to have it spread out a little bit. Kind of forces James to think about, maybe I have to look after maybe both of these Comfeys at some stage. Although the 2 damage counters does make it a little bit easy to just kind of drop it onto that Comfey at a later stage. But Piotr's targeted down that Manaphy, now making it a threat, going, my Greninja's also got an energy on it. It only needs 1 Mirage Gate, and I can start
the process,
wiping something else out on your board. So it's on James to find a defensive maneuver whilst also just knocking out this Sableye, I think.
Yeah, we've already seen both players have a really good look at each other's discard piles, and that's going to continue happening. Oh, thanks, guys. Doing that right then, that's amazing. So they will be keeping an eye on everything. It's going to be so tough for them to not only manage their own resources, like you said earlier, but also their opponents, and they are going to keep checking and checking and checking to see what they can do to use that to their advantage.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any of those sort of secret tech cards that either player have played and put into the discard or lost zone as of yet. You know, as we've already mentioned, Piotr is going to be holding that Echoing Horn for some stage, I'd like to think. And James is going to be having that Galarian Zigzagoon at some point, which could help with his Sableye math onto Piotr's side of the board. So really, really interested to see how this will play out, as we do see an escape rope slam down by James. It is on Piotr to make the first move.
And
as
decide
he's just
which
analyzing,
of those Pokemon.
analyzing all the options of how best he can do this.
Yeah, I suppose they don't need anything more in the Lost Zone, but the Comface is still great for card draw, right? So we don't necessarily want to offer them up too easily.
Yeah, and both players opting to go ahead with the Comfey in the active spot. James there just double checking what's in his flower selecting right now and matching it up against his hand. What combo pieces might he need to react? There's the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Knows no Pokemon's prize anyway, I'd like to think. And again, Piotr's also double checking the discard every single time. It's a bit smaller than Piotr's, I think. But both players now hitting the 10 in the Lost Zone count, which is vital for their moves to start paying off.
Yeah.
And as we see there, looks like an ordinary rod is being played. So 2 waters and might be a psychic.
A water and a psychic and a Manaphy are coming back.
There you go. And we do see the Sableye there, and the Mirage Gate looks like it's going to be another mirror play potentially here.
It's a really strong play, you like threatening both their bench and then trying to target down that Manaphy is a really strong play because it allows the players to kind of have those attackers set up for one after another and keep that pace of play constant. And that's really scary when you don't have a choice but to take out only single prizes. Piotr's doing a really interesting thing on his board as well, where he's protecting himself against a potential Echoing Horn from James's side by always keeping their bench full and lost zoning the Vs.
Yeah, it's one of those things where he's just finding every little percentage that he can to increase his odds of winning here. Now, James has added that water energy to that other Comfey as well. So another different direction, a different take, what we expected to see from James here. He does scoop up.
Do you see that Comfey get well again?
Yeah, he does scoop up that damaged Comfey. So this is where I said I might have liked to have seen some damage counters on the other Comfey as well. He's put 2 energies on there so that he's always got a pivot option.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
So he'll use and just pay not expensive cost to retreat, but pay an energy cost to retreat, go into the Sableye, and likely target down or begin targeting down that Manaphy as well.
Yeah, literally we see exactly the same, but James managed to recycle that Manaphy fast, so it could be that they end up doing a similar play each time with one another, and those Manaphy just keep coming back again and again and again. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, so spreading out the damage on the Comfey does take out the Sableye. So maybe just kind of foregoing the Greninja strat, so won't really need to use something like Moonlight Shuriken, but we'll maybe focus on this Sableye play now. But because both of those 2 are damaged, that Sableye is able to knock out both of those Pokemon and keep himself in such an advantageous position because he'll be able to take 2 prizes.
Yeah, both players have absolutely gargantuan hand sizes right now, so maybe Piotr has the answer they need, hopefully. We might see a scoop up net or something to be able to save those sweet little Comfeys.
There's this ordinary rod, just kind of getting back that Sableye, knowing how important it is in this matchup here. Especially the way James has played it out as well. Of course, unfortunately, we don't have a true count of exactly how many. It's 2 Pokemon, 2 energy cards. Yep, there you go. Very quickly pointed out there by James. But we haven't got quite the understanding how many maybe scoop up nets have been played by each player. But we'll keep track as much as we can, of course. But it's one of those which are really important to keep track of in this matchup as well. Purely because not just for yourself about healing your Pokemon, but your opponent's opportunity to stop your Sableye damage at the same time.
Yeah, and again, that's something they're really going to be keeping an eye on is those scoop up nets in each other's discard piles, because that's what's going to make all the difference here.
Yeah, and I think Piotr's just analyzing the field at the moment. Does have that Sableye in hand already. Mirage Gate comes down.
Here it goes.
So we're always likely to see that Psychic Energy slam back down onto that.
And the Greninja again. It's slow but steady wins the race here.
Yeah, and I think he's still trying to eye up that potential play to use Moonlight Shuriken where he can, because again, that's his way of jumping over the prize race. He ideally would like to maybe remove some of the comp-phase from damage comp-phase from the board, so because they're just a bit of an easy target right now. Oh, that's a really nice card to be playing. So Roxanne, of course, now that James is down to free prize cards, makes both players shuffle their hand back into the deck. Piotr gets to draw 6, and James only the 2.
Only 2. That's huge. So maybe that's one reason you don't want to be attacking first at Lost Box, because now Piotr's in such a strong position to catch up and go ahead. I think both players are still in massive contention for this. They've both got slightly different slice strategies to get around one another and what they're doing, but it feels like it's working.
Yeah, the good thing from James's perspective is that he does still have the comp on the bench with a retreat cost energy on it anyway. So it means not only will he see his 2 cards from Roxanne, the 1 from Draw, but a further 2 cards from Flower Selecting, and then has options for the Greninja, has options with the Oranguru, but Piotr is doing everything he can to disrupt those combo pieces coming to the fore and really sort of giving him the best chance possible with his own Oranguru just being there to trade some of those cards. And as we see, just I think that was a concealed card, so to draw 2 it looks like as well.
And luckily one of the comfies has been scooped up to safety, and the second one's gone too. So unfortunately those spread damage counters didn't work this time, but there's only so many nets in the game.
Yeah, so that has limited James's next turn as well. So just reducing the opportunity there. Looks like 7 will be going on to that Mana Fade. Does have 5 damage counters remaining. 4 go on to the Greninja, and 1 goes on the active Sableye. And just a little cleanup of the die there. From the judges. Thank you very much there. Of course, now that Greninja is also a Pokemon which is within range of a Moonlight Shuriken.
Yeah, it's important to be making sure that the players are doing some really clever mathematics in these games, because I know that I personally really struggle with that with this deck. Whereas both of these players are very seasoned with it. They're clearly very clever. They know exactly which amount of damage counters per turn would need to go on to things to assure them multiple knockouts.
Yeah, so both players now, remember, are on 3 prizes remaining. James has the advantage because it's his turn right now, so he has the opportunity to go ahead in the prize race. What Piotr may not know is that James does play he plays the 2 copies, sorry. He does play the 3. Piotr plays the 2 copies of Ordinary Rod. James has just slammed down the 3rd from his deck, as I just kind of mentioned, and immediately pulled out that Manaphy once again to try and protect his board. Just the Manaphy and the Water Energy. It looks like he's targeting as options for the Ordinary Rod. Just seeing maybe another energy. No, he doesn't even want the energy. It's just a Manaphy. That's what he's prioritizing.
The ever-reviving Manaphy. He's back in the deck again.
And the Raihan to grab the energy, attach it to a Pokemon, and grab any card from your deck so long as a Pokemon was knocked out on your opponent's last turn. So he will be able to grab that Manaphy once again with relative ease as well.
Yeah, and really struggling to decide there which Pokemon to attach the energy to, but ended up going with a Oranguru.
Yeah, just I think maybe just didn't want to necessarily apply too many energies to that Comfey. Just a bit unnecessary at this point. Knowing the point of this game right now with 3 prizes remaining, there's not going to be too many opportunities still to use Flower Selecting. At the same time, he already has an energy on it, should he need to do so at a later time. But even after that Roxanne, things are still working out very much so for James at this current moment.
I think you were right earlier when you were talking about how much draw power this deck has. Even being put down to 2 cards in hand can be huge because, well, it doesn't really matter that much.
No,
although they do make their hands so refined when they are Flower Selecting and Colress experimenting. If they do need to draw more cards, they can pick up the pace and they can do it. No,
exactly that. And now James is just identifying exactly where he wants to be putting those damage counters. He's likely to target that active Sableye, kind of just removing it from being able to play, or is he just targeting down now? Oh, he's gone for the Manaphy this time as himself
and
as well.
Greninja. Interesting.
So now just almost copying the same play that Piotr had at the same time. Piotr doesn't have access to his final Ordinary Rod either, so that Manaphy going down, I don't believe will be coming back anymore until he's able to get that Ordinary Rod back out of the prizes. So now limits what Piotr can do, but it depends on how James can navigate the rest of his turn, because he doesn't have any energy on that Greninja right now as it currently stands. And it's still quite safe because of the third Manaphy benching from James's board. So Piotr just kind of analyzing what he could really do at this stage as well. Still 16 minutes on the clock for both players to try and maneuver a position into or as close to his top 8 as possible. So really vital turns. This is crunch time for both players.
It really is, and Piotr's in quite a strong position with those damage counters on multiple of James's Pokemon. So we'll have to see how they play it out. But although they've got a really thin bench, it may not matter.
Yeah, we do just see the scoop up net on that Greninja, knowing that that game plan doesn't seem to be a way forward anymore. So it's now down to how else he can kind of jump and leap over that prize race, because it is now 2-3. Piotr always being a little bit on the back foot at this point. So he's maybe just working out whether it's possible or not.
Yeah, I mean, they've still got the sub lane active. Nothing on bench isn't great, but they can take a knockout this turn. And if they can prevent James from taking multiple knockouts, it is possible to set up so that they might be able to get themselves another, but maybe not with the lack of the Ordinary Rod.
Yeah, so Piotr really needs to kind of consider what he can do in terms of maybe finding a way to jump over and get 2 more prizes after taking 1 here. Maybe just kind of setting up a couple of Pokemon in some way, shape or form to take his remaining 3 prizes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like he has enough access to another Sableye right now either, as he just used that Capture Energy, didn't grab anything else out of the deck despite there being a couple of Pokemon. Just putting 2 on the Manaphy, 2 on the other Comfey. And just taking the knockout on that Greninja. Oh no, it's just 2 on a Comfey. There you go. And Sableye there. So this is it. This is James's turn right now.
This is crunch time.
Is there a way to... He will be knocking out this Sableye. I think like that's vital for James right now to kind of limit what options Piotr has. But yeah, this is really back and forth, and I think really hard for one person to really understand exactly what's going through both players' minds right now.
Yeah, Piotr, from a board state perspective, seems to have run out of resources, but that's not necessarily the case with Lost Time Box, because it can just jump out of nowhere. And
that switch card is massive. It also retreating that active Sableye with the 2 damage counters that were on it, but healing it off as well, because it does heal 30 HP from a Pokemon, or damage counters from a Pokemon when it does switch out the active Pokemon there.
Yeah, even better.
So just nullifying some of the damage counters Piotr has put down. Does have scoop up net in hand.
Are they going to take all the damage? All of them are gone.
Yeah, that's it. It's, that's just nullified that whole turn.
Oh my goodness!
Despite taking a prize by Piotr there.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that feels so game changing. It felt like it could have been in Piotr's park, but now James has gone. You know what? No, we're not having any of those damage counters on my board. Thank you.
Yeah, you did this to me earlier where you removed those 2 Comfeys. It's my turn.
I can do it too. This just feels like the Battle of the Titans in that regard. That's just going to be these guys like catchphrase.
This truly is what we consider like a mirror match, isn't it? So it's like both players just identical movements, identical sort of damage counters being dropped, board states. It really is really fun to watch how back and forth this game can be, and Piotr does just scoop up his hand.
Oh, and we're going to a game 3.
Yeah, we'll be going to game 3 with just over 12.5 minutes left on the clock as James takes game 2. So bringing up the series back to 1-1 with just a small amount of time remaining. This really is crunch time. We've got to see how these players are able to just maneuver these next few turns, because that's going to be incredible to see. Yeah, exciting game. I really enjoyed that.
It's really anxiety-inducing to know that there's so little time left, but it could go either way. Can both of them get set up? Can they go quick? And are they going to manage to falter one another? It's going to be so interesting to see. I think this is one of my favorite mirror matches, to be honest, because you do see quick tricks and turns just turn the entire pace of the game around.
Yeah, we saw 2 different strategies go ahead as well. Piotr was trying to target down that mana fee as much as possible. Unfortunately, saw it benched 3 times. Back-to-back turns. Unfortunately, just nullifying that Greninja Moonlight Shuriken play that he was hoping to find a way over the prize race. Whereas James was carefully placing those damage counters, forcing Piotr to really pick up those Pokemon, which he really didn't want to sort of waste scoop up nets to do.
No, he wanted to be able to use that for his flower selecting, but it didn't seem to be the way. He just had to remove the counters as quickly as they could to prevent getting knocked out.
So now it comes down to, will Piotr decide to go second in this matchup and take the attempt to take the first prize as well, similar to game 1.
I think it's one of the most crucial decisions in this mirror match.
Yeah, definitely so. As we just see and go to our game 3 of our final game or round in Swiss before we go to top 8.
Oh, it really comes down to it all for these guys.
And we do see Piotr has made that decision to try and hope for maybe an easy knockout on his first turn by choosing to go second. Does see that battle VIP pass in hand again. James,
very nice.
James opens with that flower selecting. Does have another Comfey he does bench as well. So at least safe from that potential benching by having one of those knocked out and nothing else on board.
Cramoran isn't going to go ahead and take this game quite so early, so at least there's that for James. They can feel safe in that knowledge, but they've still got to try and get their game going as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, lost zoning 2 lightning energy right near the beginning.
Yeah, we've seen there with the Temple Sinnoh being played as well, just trying to limit maybe those capture energy sort of effects as well. Piotr does have quite a few cards in hand. Like I said, has that battle VIP pass, can begin setting up his own board. We do see in James's prizes a card we haven't really mentioned too much as well. He is playing the Zekrom variant, playing 2 of these Zekroms as his sort of lightning attacker of choice, going up against sort of those lightning weak Pokemon like those Lugia V-Stars we keep talking about. But it's a big tanky Pokemon, 130 HP, 130 damage with that Wild Shock attack for 2 lightning colors. Does do some damage to itself, similar to that Articuno. But similar to that Articuno as well, also paralyzes. So extra utility from a really cool card.
Yeah, unfortunately going up against another Lost Zone deck with so much pivot and scoop up and all the which ways to get back onto that bench. Unfortunately, paralysis doesn't feel as strong here. What do you think?
No, not at all, unfortunately. And I don't think dealing 60 damage to itself really helps when he knows a Sableye could come down at any point and just rack up that damage really quickly.
Yeah, so I imagine he doesn't mind about those lightning energy that much other than to use his retreat costs.
And there's a concealed card on that capture energy. James doing that Temple of Sinnoh paying trumps there, having to use that instead for the concealed cards, and does get double scoop up net, I think it looked like. And just there, another flower selecting.
I think that was an ordinary rod and an energy. Tough decision.
Yeah, it would look like a psychic energy there, so he's just double checking his hand. Might have been a Mirage Gate. I mean, it could be a few different arts there as available. There's a psychic, or is it another scoop up net?
He's hiding it.
All these cards just kind of are a blur. Right now.
There's so many item cards in these decks.
Does put away the psychic energy. Only has access to 1 psychic energy now as time goes.
It did look like a scoop up net in the end.
It looks like another one of those. So he's got, in his first turn, we'll have seen 3 of them, but I'm not too sure what else is available, and does just have to pass.
Wow.
Not the greatest of turns there from Piotr. Misses the turn 1 Cramorant. So James has been given an advantage here because he does have the double Comfey down already and can start applying some real pressure because only 1 Comfey down for Piotr.
Ooh, if Piotr had have got that knockout and put James down to 1 Comfey, this wouldn't have been quite such the rocketing start, and actually, wow, they would have got another off the Lost Zone if they'd have chosen, but luckily from that flower selecting, actually they can pop that one in the Lost Zone because James knows that they've already got 2 to work with, and he feels comfortable that that's enough right now. Yeah,
I think that Temple of Sinnoh play, playing just the one-off copies in both these decks, or I think maybe just only in James's
Yeah.
deck, but just getting that out and stopping that capture energy opportunity reduces the amount of confays that were available to Piotr, and now it's just going to be taking out the only one that's in play. We didn't see a supporter played by Piotr either. So really it's going to come down to maybe if he's able to get an energy and just draw out of it. And find other ways.
Yeah,
take an early lead, just apply a lot of pressure, and it could be that just Piotr just might be dead drawing slightly, but we hope that this game does go back and forth. There's that Galarian Zigzagoon we spoke about in game 2 as well, going into the Lost Zone alongside that air balloon. So it really is advantage James, I'd like to think now.
Yeah, it's seemingly that way. Now that they've managed to get this engine going, they are really going for it too. That's going to be another one in the Lost Zone, putting us to 6. That's really, really strong. Hopefully they might even be able to get to 7 on this rate. Oh my gosh, there's another Comfey in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, and I think James has seen a full 4 of his scoop up nets as well, because there's 3 in the discard, I believe it looks like now. And I think it was a choice between Comfey and a scoop up net, and has chosen a scoop up net.
They've gone for the Zekrom, so Piotr does get to see that for the very first time.
Yeah, and here comes the Cramorant with that spit innocently attack. Not quite so innocent when you're taking a KO on that Comfey, and the Greninja does go in the active spot. It looks like there's an energy, like another capture energy for the Greninja, but I don't think there was much else. There was an ordinary Roar, there was a Sableye, not another energy. It wasn't like Piotr could potentially scoop up net that Greninja and do it again. He does just have to boss the Zekrom here.
Oh my goodness, that's not ideal. The Zekrom does have a high retreat cost, and a lot of scoop up nets have been used though, so maybe they're hoping the Zekrom might get a little stuck.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, James is happy to kind of play the Zekrom because he feels like with, I guess, the scoop up net in hand, as well as having 4 lightning energies in his deck, we've already seen 2 already go into the Lost Zone. He can actually utilize it as an attacker. We do see the Raikou come down to draw an extra card as well, just with fleet footing, and get that Greninja back onto the bench. Not ideal from Piotr because he's having to put forward a V Pokemon. Those are 2 prizes that he really shouldn't want to give up, but doesn't really have a choice right now.
No, he's only got 1 in the Lost Zone as well, so we can't get even a Cramorant going at this rate. James is going to fly away with this game if they keep managing to stay. Oh, that switch card, yes! Oh my goodness, so yeah, they can keep going with that Lost Zone engine. That's incredible.
Yeah, and James, I wonder if he'll be looking to try and knock out this Raikou on this turn. Would put him down to 3 prizes as well, and just in such an advantageous position. As the time is going down at the same point as well, as we pan back to the actual game, and just kind of James is identifying exactly which cards he's going to be utilizing to full effect. He's going through his deck right now. So many key decisions to be made with such little time. So they are, strictly speaking, on the clock right now.
They really are, absolutely. It was really interesting play from that flower selecting there from James, where he decided to keep the Drapion in hand.
Yeah, it could be utilized as a big attacker because of things like Mirage Gate.
And there's another V on board, so it's interesting to see that the Drapion just could have actual energy attached to it. That doesn't happen too often.
No, it doesn't. It has that kind of extra utility in these kind of decks because of Mirage Gate, allowing it to be powered up in a different way as well. When someone maybe is trying to utilize less Fusion Strike Pokemon in a new deck going up against Lost Box, or something that has Drapion attached, or with the Mirage Gate, but you can just kind of spring that on them and kind of still swing away with Drapion V as well. But we do see just an initial attack, spin innocently. It does have the energy attached to the Cramorant as well, just to kind of give it that pivot option. Piotr does Fleet Foot, draw his card, and Fleet Footing. Still nothing there.
Nothing. That hand is abysmal.
There we do see the Escape Rope. We just kind of maybe just get it out of the active for the moment. Doesn't even draw more cards. He does have plenty of cards in his hand as well. That's above 8 cards at least. And there's the Escape Rope, and just has to pass it over.
Oh my goodness.
Feels so bad right now for Piotr, but James still needs to close this out if he's going to try and take this win.
Yeah, it looks like he'll be grabbing that Cramorant from those prize cards, so giving him another valid free attacker.
Exactly that, and he's got that comfort in the active spot because of that escape rope as well. Doesn't have to expend that energy off that Cramorant.
No.
Greninja will be able to tank a hit. I believe Piotr may still have access to potentially another scoop up net in hand as well, so can kind of negate some of the damage that's done there. James does have 3 energies prized, which could limit the amount of Mirage Gates available. You know, adding on the 2 that's already in the loss zone.
That's a lot of energy.
There's actually quite a few things which could be a little bit troubling, a bit of a sticky point for James there. And that Temple of Sin has been sticking around for a long time.
It really has, yeah. It seems to be sticking its ground. I suppose these guys don't run a whole lot of stadium removal each, especially considering they have a matching stadium. Oh, do they have a matching stadium at all?
Training court,
They do, training court. So once a training court's in play, I suppose it benefits both of them. And I don't think either of them want to let up on that, so that Temple of Sinnoh could stick around.
So there's Piotr essentially seeing 4 more cards with his draw for turn, fleet footing for 1, found an energy. He's actually just going to scoop it up. And James does take the win. James is ecstatic right now. It's really unfortunate for Piotr.
Oh my goodness.
It's just so happened that James has been able to take this series after that early scoop. I don't know how. I don't know what to say. He's got to be incredibly happy at this moment in time. It's just such a riveting game that we had the chance to see as potentially one of our win-and-ins. This does put James onto 31 points. It's a bit of a crunch spot to be in. 31 points potentially on the bubble, maybe just pushing in. But credits to James. He had to scoop early and win game 2, and then just got that extra bit of luck in game 3.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was great to see them go to a game 3. We saw both of them as very, very strong players. We saw both of them include so many different tactics in those games. It was just so unfortunate for Piotr.
Yeah, it's just one of those where it just didn't go right for him. He saw so many cards, even had to try and use the Raikou V with the fleet-footed ability to just see as many cards as possible. And just despite having almost double digits of cards in his hand, maybe more sometimes, he wasn't able to get another Comfey or Chorus Experiment. Nothing was particularly badly prized either.
No, it was just the card draw just wasn't being great to them, and it was to James, and that's why we're going to see that unfortunately that final match did manage to go to the end. Also, although I'm glad that it did come to a conclusion.
Oh, I'm ecstatic that it does, because we've spoken about it many times before, these Lost Box decks, because of all those micro decisions that you have to make, and so many different sort of pivots and movements, we do often see it tends to just play almost like a best-of-1 deck.
Yeah, quite often.
But here we're seeing them two up against one another, and suddenly is a best-of-3.
It was amazing. Yeah, and that's how you can see that these two truly are champions in their craft.
Yeah, definitely, and it's so cool to see someone who's put so much time and dedication into Lost Box, take it to another tournament. Like I said, he's done incredibly well at Worlds this past season, coming in top 4. And now just kind of really grinding and getting himself into such a great position, hoping for that top 8 berth. But again, Piotr, he's done fantastically well as well.
So well.
It's been super consistent in the past few regionals and tournaments. And again, he's made it into day 2, again, putting himself in that contention. It just fell a little bit short, but he should be congratulated for his play as well.
100%. Absolutely brilliant plays all round today, and just a real pleasure to be able to welcome such a fun mirror into the series as well.
Yeah, I love seeing the little tech cards. We get to talk about our different ideas and how those tech cards could play a part. You know how much we've loved tech cards as well.
Exactly.
You know, that Greed and VMAX and that we saw yesterday, and these little kind of zigzagoons kind of popping up again. It's just been such a joy to watch. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what more we could ask for. We're going to have top 8 soon, and then into top 4 where we start to crown some of our medal winners, and then we'll have hopefully our eventual champion for Bochum Regionals.
The days have seemed to have flown by. We've seen so many fantastic decks and so many innovations. But I think it's time for us to head to an interview. So hopefully we'll catch up with you guys later, but enjoy.
All right there, and look, we are now joined with that last match winner, James Cox, top 4 at the last World Championships. How are you feeling after that win?
I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know if I'll actually make cut after this. I was pretty surprised when they put me on stream, to be honest, because I have no clue. But like, if they put me on stream, like surely I'm on a bubble at least. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good to be back getting CP again. After OCSC, I was pretty beat up, but I'm happy to be doing good today.
Yeah, so I think you're on 31 points right now, which I did have a little calculation before. I think that's going to be on the old bubble, so I think you are still involved, so let's all cross our fingers for James. Now, looking at your list, I know you said you have some funky stuff in there. Talk to us about your funky inclusions and why you're playing them.
Yeah, so I'm playing a Zekrom version of the deck, and no, like, you know, the choice spell stuff that Azul or Pedro's playing as Zamazenta. So in my testing, I found that this deck was very good against Lugia, even though I don't have like an answer to Stoutland. It's really hard for them to actually pull off Stoutland with a lot of strategies I go for. Putting a 130 HP Pokemon in the active on the first turn, not attacking with Cram Rate is very difficult for them to Stoutland, and they board lock a lot. Using Luminion, they don't get board space, and they can't even Luminion for Birdkeeper. So when you just Zekrom their Stoutland, you have a lot of answers. You can use Dragonite to kill Stoutland. It's not very good because you always lose prize trade if that happens. So, but yeah, that's the main reason for running Zekrom, and the rest of it is pretty stock standard Lost Box, which I've been playing all season.
Okay, love that. And in case you guys don't know, James is a bit of a Lost Box connoisseur, playing, was it 500 games of it on over the course of a few months on stream, right?
I'm at 1100 right now.
1100? I've blinked and that number has doubled apparently since I've been watching. Were there any other inclusions that you might have played for today in your Lost Box deck?
Well, I didn't play Kyogre today because, to be honest, I felt that the previous times I was playing Kyogre, I was relying on it a bit, and it's really hard to like use it and like plan out the rest of your stuff. So I think Kyogre is good. I thought streamlining it might make this one a bit easier, and yeah, I guess that's the main thing.
Okay, interesting. So, talk to us about the matchup spread with your Lost Box. So you're 1,000 games with the deck. What are the sort of big decks that you're hoping to see, and what are the ones that you really don't want to see with your style build?
So this deck, I mean, yeah, the main ones I don't want to see are like Flying Pikachu. I have the Temple Sinnoh in there for Ice Cube, but anything with Flying Pikachu is really bad. I lost to Robin Schultz on day 1 playing the Flying Pikachu Lugia deck. So that's the main thing that isn't very good. But yeah, the Lugia matchup I found to be a bit favored, and the cool thing about it is if like in the first game they're still working out how they're supposed to play it, they board lock early. It's very difficult for them to win. So that's it, yeah. And all the other matchups seem fairly favored. Go with Dragonite for like your Gudras and your Octoras, and so yeah, Mew's very good and Lost Box Mirror.
That does seem like a very good matchup spread then, so I can see why you've chosen to almost main that kind of style deck. Talk to us about your goals. So obviously we sort of know how today might pan out. You might be on the bubble for top 8. You know, coming off your incredible finish at Worlds, how was you approaching this season and what were your goals?
So yeah, obviously just day 2 Worlds, because I got top 4 already of the paid trip in the day 1 to Worlds.
Let's go.
It's not too, you know, it's not as much stress, I guess, getting that day 2, but I still want to get it. And hopefully a good finish here helps me. It's been pretty rough so far, Mississippi, OCSC, and then LAIC DQ, but yeah.
So talk to us about your immediate plans in the future and what sort of events are you going to be hitting up?
Yeah, so I'm going to be hitting up, I'm going to be missing Italy, the special event. That'll be the only one I'm missing. So the next 2 regionals, Utrecht is really close to me.
Hey, love that.
Walking distance.
Walking distance. Can you imagine how nice that would be for a regional? Just be able to walk.
Yeah, it's literally walking distance. Malmo, and then I'll be NAIC and EUIC as well.
And EUIC as well. Well, thank you very much for your time, James. Let's all cross our fingers for James, and hopefully we'll see him in top 8 or maybe even the rest of the Top Cut games later on. But I think we're going to kick it to a quick break now, and then we'll be back as soon as possible with our Top Cut games.